Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog. Today, a little bit different. I'm gonna sit and go through how to plan for an adventure. Now, I've had a fair few emails asking me how to plan for these trips, and most of them have been very much like, I'd love to do what you do, or I'd love to plan my own trip, but I just don't know where to start. And from the messages that I've been getting recently, it seems that's quite a common thing. So I thought, okay, well, I will sit here and I will tell you exactly what I did to plan my first big project, which was rowing across the Atlantic Ocean. It's quite a while ago now. And that same process I still use today for my next big project. Nothing's changed. I've just refined a few things. So, look, firstly, how to plan for an adventure. There's many different. You've got air, sea, and land. So are you flying somewhere? Are you at sea? Are you trying to row across an ocean? Are you trying to sail somewhere? And then you've got land. Now that's going to obviously include mountains, include cycling. I am going to make another video on specific cycling stuff, although I might touch on it a little bit in this later on. So you've got to figure out what it is that you want to do. And I just wanted to say very quickly, before I kind of get into the crux of the detail, it doesn't really matter what you do, and everyone is different. So if someone they've never been on an adventure before, they've struggled perhaps with their weight, and they've worked really hard to drop weight and get fit, and they're going to ride from Land's End to John O'Groats. Well, if I'm really honest with you, that's probably just as big an achievement for that person than it is for me, or someone who's a bit more seasoned, a bit more used to this, to go and climb Everest. So don't worry about what other people are doing. And if you're gonna plan for an adventure, do it because you want to do it. And the one thing that I would say is, if no one knew what you were doing, okay, would you still go and do it? And if the answer is yes, then do it. But just think about your motives for doing things. It's kind of another subject, really, getting onto that. But this is how I broke down my first ever project, trying to row across the Atlantic. So the first sort of pillar, if you like, the first part was funding. The biggest problem you're gonna have, unless you're in a position where you can just pay for everything yourself, and not many people are, the biggest problem you're gonna have is finding the money to do it. So that has to be your absolute priority, and that will take pretty much most of your time. So you've got the funding. You've then got the technical element. So for me, the technical element of rowing across the Atlantic was getting the boat, doing all the research around the boat. Do I buy a brand new one? Do I buy a second-hand one? Understanding the different types of boats, looking into the different materials, understanding the different equipment that was on the boat, and that is a big deal. If you don't really come from a nautical background, that's not a 5-minute thing. There's quite a bit of learning involved with that. And then I had the fitness element. Well, actually, how fit do you really need to be to row across an ocean? The actual answer is, you really don't need to. You could get in a boat, every single one of you watching this video could get in a boat tomorrow and row 3,000 miles. And even if you're not that good at it, after you got 3,000 miles to learn, so you're going to get good pretty quickly. And you just take it slowly to begin with. Initially, when I started working on my project, I spent far too much time faffing about on a rower, on an indoor rower, at the gym, trying to get these really impressive 2K times, 1K sprint times, and it was a complete waste of time. I'm not saying don't do it, but actually my time would have been better spent trying to get the money, or spend time working on the boat. So fitness is quite an important thing. But you know, I remember when I was preparing for my row, I spoke to guys and I said, how are you getting on? And they said, yeah, we are so fit right now. And I said, great, have you got a boat? No, we don't have a boat at the moment. And that's because they were spending too much time on something that's just not a priority. I'm not saying it's not important to be fit, but it's a damn sight more important to get the money to do what it is that you're trying to do. You can get fit out there, worst case. So fitness was one pillar, if you like. And then the sort of fourth pillar was skills. Well, how do you navigate? How do you know what to do? How do you use the VHF radio correctly? What's the process for doing certain things? What happens if something goes wrong? Now, I went on Royal Yachting Association, so the RYA. I went on a Royal Yachting Association course for sea survival and rescue at sea, basically. And they tell you and instruct you sort of how to do very basic things, like the correct way to launch the flares, the correct way to launch a life raft, and how to. It was a first aid course as well, actually. So how to treat yourself, like first aid. It's all fairly simple stuff. I then did a RYA Ocean Master. I don't even think you need to do that anymore if you want to row across the Atlantic or an ocean, because there's no real requirement. You'll never. The Ocean Master teaches you how to navigate via using a sextant, which is a special tool that you take angles from the horizon and from the sun, and you work out through something called an almanac. It's all numbers based. No one really uses them anymore. There's just no real requirement, but it is a good skill to be able to. So the course, I went on a navigation course basically, which was good, but it went into so much detail on stuff that I was never going to use. At the time, it was compulsory to do that because the Spanish authorities wouldn't let me leave or anyone else leave without having the right certificates, basically. So, and also the best thing is, go out and speak to people who've done what it is that you want to do, okay? And I think I've said this in past videos, so I don't want to repeat myself too much. Do not take advice from a well-meaning person who has not done what it is that you want to do. People have a terrible habit, and they don't mean to, they have a terrible habit of being experts on something when they really have no clue. They're just trying to share their opinion. So find people who've actually done what it is that you want to do and go and speak to them. You will not find someone who probably doesn't want to help you. Now I get lots of people come to me and ask me for advice, and I help every single one of them. And if you've come to me and I haven't got back to you, then I apologize. Make contact again and I'll get back in contact with you. And everyone who I've reached out to who's helped me has been incredible. So in terms of skills, there's no real excuse. You can learn the skills. So you can see you've got to break everything down. And that's really the only way you're going to do this, because it's such a big task. It's rowing across the Atlantic or an ocean row, that kind of thing, that the only way to do it is to kind of break it all down. But I'm going to go back just briefly and touch on the funding, because a lot of people are asking me, how do you raise the money? Now, I have made a video on this before when I was walking on the street, rambling into the camera. But effectively, I talk about something called the 4 W's. And that is what you're doing, why you are doing it. That is by far the most important thing, why you are doing it. What it is that you can do for a sponsor. So if I give you some money, what are you going to do for it? And the last thing is, what do you want? So how much money do you want? So if you think of these 4 things, I call them the 4 W's, put a nice proposal together, and the email, it has to be written well, structured well, it needs to read well, there cannot be any spelling mistakes. The second it looks a bit, not particularly well thought out, well written, it's just, you're not going to get anywhere. So the more effort you put into your email and your proposal, the greater chance you'll stand. And there's no secret here. You have to send that out to thousands and thousands of companies. The only reason I rowed across the Atlantic and I've done the things that I've managed to do now is because I have been ruthless in my quest to find funding, and you have to be. I say ruthless, I suppose I've just been very determined, and I have sent tens of thousands of emails out. Now 95% of them you won't even hear back from, but some of them you will. So for instance, recently I've just secured some funding through a company that I never would even have thought to have approached. They were just happened to be on a list, and I got lucky. It was the right time, right place, and they're now helping me with my next project. So if you don't know where to start in terms of companies, you can go online and Google CEO email addresses, and you can pay to download it. I think I can't remember how much it was, or you can get a certain amount for free. But they've got every FTSE 100 company and every FTSE 250 company. So these are big companies that make up the indexes, big UK companies and global companies as well. All of the details for the CEO, the managing director, their actual email addresses are in this list, and you just need to email all these people. So in the description to this video, I'll put the link for the CEO email addresses, and if you email me, I'm james@jamesketchell.net, although my email's in the description, I will actually send you an email template. It's almost a script. I will help you. I will give you a script to use. You have to tweak it because I don't know who the hell you are, but I will send you what I sent out, and that will help you. That will be a base for you to then tweak, and then you got to start sending those emails out. And believe me, that takes a lot of time. I would say 90% of my time, 90% of my time at the moment is spent raising money. And then the other bit of time is spent doing other bits, different parts of the project. However, once you've got to the point where you've got enough money, where you know something's going to happen, you can then tone down the fundraising and then start spending more time on the technical elements and on the different bits, the fitness. Once you've got the money, you can train like a lunatic and be the fittest guy going. But don't waste too much time doing that before. So that's how I went about rowing across the Atlantic. I split everything down into manageable sections. So you've got the funding, you've got the technical aspect, you've got the fitness, and then you've got the skills, learning what you need to learn. So that's kind of how I went about the row. Now I just want to touch on cycling. I'm going to make another video on how I prepared to cycle around the world. But there are 3 questions that I get asked a lot, and that is, how did you navigate? If I'm really honest with you, I just used Google Maps on my phone. It was so easy. I knew where I wanted to go, but while you're there in real time, you can look and figure out where you are. But a downside of that is you need to carry a good battery because your phone is going to be dying all the time. So you have to, and the last thing you want is to get caught out in the middle of nowhere. You're not entirely sure where you are, or you're navigating through a town and your phone dies. That's your means of communication. You're doing your social media through it, and it was also my means of finding my way. And another big thing is how much you carry is gonna have a huge impact on your trip, and you need to figure out, are you going to do it carrying huge panniers, so you're going to be heavy? That's really going to slow you down, and it's going to restrict your daily mileage. Or are you going to do it lightweight, carry minimalistic, just frame bags, and stay in a hotel every night, or find places to stay in a hostel? You don't have to stay in expensive hotels. Or use a website called warmshowers.org. Be careful if you Google that, by the way. But that is a website that hosts, if you're a cyclist, you can host other cyclists and they'll stay with you. And the idea is free of charge. You can sleep on their floor or sleep in their garden, if you have a tent or something, or they give you a spare room and you have a shower, and usually you have a meal, and that's their way of looking after you as a fellow cyclist. So warmshowers.org is a really good website for any touring cyclist. I urge you to look into that. It's really good. So just a couple of things that I wanted to touch on there. Figure out your kit. Cycling with a really heavy bike and with panniers will be a totally different trip to cycling very lightweight. So you need to figure that one out. But I'm going to make another whole video on that. So I just wanted to, I hope I've kind of answered some questions there. You've got to break things down into pillars to become manageable chunks. Otherwise it's just not going to work. Your brain is going to become very quickly overloaded. I haven't gone into too much detail about the row because this is not sort of rowing specific. I just wanted to share with you how you plan really for an adventure, and also as well a timeline. Create a timeline. So figure out the date that you want to leave to row a boat somewhere or go on your cycling trip. So you fix that date and you have to work backwards. So what needs to happen between now and that date, and put a plan in place. Get it, and it's no good just being in your head. That's useless. You've got to document it all. I'm not saying produce really flashy big spreadsheets, but just start writing things down and documenting it, and it'll all become clear once you can put a sort of a plan together. So I kind of hope that helped, guys. What I want to do is, if you do have any questions, just ping them over to me and I will get back. I know someone asked me for my route recently because I cycled from London to Paris. That's on my to-do list. You're going to have that in the next 24 hours if you're watching this. So I'll upload the route that I cycled from London to Paris and I'll send that to you in a file. So yeah, if there's any questions, just let me know. I will always get back to you guys, just because this is what I love, what I do. So it's not a chore for me. I enjoy helping people. Also, a massive thanks to everyone who's ordered the book recently. I really appreciate that, and I've had some really amazing feedback, so thank you. And guys, yeah, just subscribe if you like this and throw ideas out there. If there's something that you want me to talk about or share my idea on, or any advice, let me know and I'll just make a video. It's easy for me to do that, guys. But that is it for today. Just a bit of a breakdown as to how I went about planning for the row, with a whole few things thrown in. So guys, hit subscribe, hit the like if you want to, and I've got some more stuff coming in another couple of days. I've been quite busy with a few things that I'm working on, but I am getting there and I love uploading the videos. So thanks guys, out for now.